Hey everyone, just wanted to show you quickly how to do a customization of a mood board inside of Photoshop. Now we're giving you two separate assets here. We're giving you an interior version and an exterior version. They both will customize exactly the same way. I've gone ahead and collected a few pictures that I want to include on the mood board. I'm not going to walk you through how to fill it out all the way, but I am going to show you how to get started in it. So first thing I want to do after I open this document is go ahead and look at my layers, twirl that open. And I can see that I have several different layers here. I have instructions, numbers, white borders, image blocks, and color swatches. Now, I'm not really concerned with anything else other than image blocks and color swatches. These are, and the instructions are obviously an instructions layer that you can read and review if in case you get stuck, but just turn that off. And then also the numbers. You can leave the numbers on while you're customizing, but then before you export, you definitely want to turn that off also. So the first thing I want to do here is I'll turn my numbers back on just so I can get a handle of where I'm going to go. I want to actually drop a photo in here and get started. So I'm going to go up to File, I'm going to go to Open, and I've made a collection of different inspiration photos inside of a folder called Exterior Mood. I really like this location here, so I'm going to go ahead and include that. You can see that when I do that, it's taken me to a separate little section here. So I'm just going to take this tab and I'm going to pull it outside of that top bar here so I can see what I'm dealing with here. And I'm going to go ahead and hold the Option key down and click on this background layer. Not double click, but just click and drag it over to my other layer here so I can get it in the comp. And with it selected like here, I'm going to go ahead and just kind of fine tune where I want that to be. How prominent do I want it to be? Do I want it to be a feature? No, I think 5 would probably be a good area for that. So I'm going to basically work it in there. And then I'm going to twirl down my image blocks section, and I've noted that it was on block number 5. So let's go ahead and drag that right above block number 5 there. And what I want to do with this layer is hit the Control key, which is basically a right click of the mouse. Select Create Clipping Mask. It'll hide the edges and just keep it into a nice little format. Now, if that's not how I want it, I can still scale and position this picture by grabbing onto the handles. I like to hit Shift and Option to keep everything proportionate when I drag. I can separate out a little section there. Or if I want to reposition this, then I can just use the arrow keys up and down, or I can use the Shift and arrow key to move it farther. If I want to just move incrementally fine tuning, then I'm just using the down arrow key here. But that looks about right how I want it. I'm going to hit Enter to go ahead and lock that in. And that would be my first picture there. So I would do the same thing for another picture here. I'm going to go ahead and open and then find another section. I have this lighter here that I really like. I know that's going to be on the outside, but let's go with a texture shot here. Again, I'm going to take this tab and drag it down here so I can separate it off. And I'm going to hit the Option key and drag it over to my comp like we were talking about. Now this is throwing it above the layer that I just created, but I wanted to actually move this above image block so I can I can move it and fine tune it where I want it to go first. If I want to do the heavy lifting and just kind of go ahead and scale it to about where it needs to be, then I will do that. I'm not going to put it on 6. I'm actually going to put it on 7 because I just want to see the texture as a detail here. So I'm going to scale it in there. And I'm going to go ahead and lock that in. That's just a preliminary scale. And then I'm going to drag that above the number 7 block there. And I'm going to go ahead and right click like we did before, Control click, and hit the Create Clipping Mask. And then I'm going to use my arrows to kind of fine tune that a little bit. Or I can also scale it, fine tune the scale there. I know that it can't go too much lower than that because I want to be able to see it, but that's good. I like that. Hit Enter. Now the other thing I want to show you now that we've gotten this is looking at our color swatches over here, because it's important to include the color palette of the scene. I want to try and pick out photos that are going to match my color palette, but I know that that I want to get a color palette established in the first place. So let me show you how to do that too. And I'm going to go over to Adobe, color.adobe.com. I'm going to start picking out colors that I want to use in this project. So I can do that easily by moving the sliders around and it will give me different values, and actually will start pulling out different complementary colors that are and this is an analogous setting, so every time I drag my main primary color around, it's going to pick out colors that are analogous with that. I can do complementary colors also, which is a really cool way to get and establish a color palette. But for this tutorial, I think what I want to do is really look at a photo that I've already grabbed. Um, and so I really like this Caribbean travel poster, and I like the colors that are happening inside of here. There's a couple different adjustments that we can make here. We can find different variations of this. So you can say, hey, I like the color that you came up with, the really saturated colors, but I like, something maybe a little bit more in the muted family. I know that white suit is going to be something that we really are going to be including, so maybe white should be one of our primary colors to go along with. And so what I want to do here is, if you are logged in using your Adobe Cloud account, which I am, then I'm going to go ahead and save this color palette that it's generated for me here. And I'm going to save that, and I'm going to call this Caribbean colors mon for Caribbean colors. And it's going to save it to my Creative Cloud and my library. If I wanted to create a new library specifically for this project, I could do that as well. But I'm just going to have it saved to my library, and I'm going to go ahead and hit save there. So now this has created a new color swatch for me, and I've saved it off. I'm going to go back into my Photoshop here, and then I'm really concerned with the color swatches section here. So I'm going to look over here, and I can see that I have colors, I have swatches, I have libraries, and here we go. Automatically, I've got Caribbean Colors Mon. That's what I just created on Adobe Story, and it's already automatically syncing with my Photoshop, which is really, really cool. If it's not syncing for whatever reason, then you have this little Creative Cloud button down here. You can click on that, and it will update your library for you. Click on each individual color itself, and you can see over here that it's changing the color swatches as my as an option for me. So that's what we're going to do here. We're going to fill in all of these different swatches, and so swatches is open in my layers palette. I'll select number 1, for instance, and I know that I've already, let's go back to my my libraries here. I've already selected that. I'm going to go ahead and grab the paint can, and I'm going to just click on that section. Now I'm going to go over to back to my layer. I'm going to click on, just to get myself, stay ahead of myself here. I'm going to click on the second one. I'm going to go back to my layers. I'm going to click on 2, and I'm going to hit the paint can there. And then I'm going to go back to layer, my libraries, click on my white, and then we got to go back to layers, 3. And you can see the process here. So that's going to be the exact same. Now we want to have everything themed, interior and exterior. If this is an exterior one that I'm working on, then this needs to be all exteriors or things that pertain to exteriors, including different text phrases, textures, props, examples of things that are happening on the exterior side, and then examples of things that are happening on the interior side. And then when we go to export this, like I was telling you before, we want to make sure that we turn off those layers that are unnecessary, the instructions and numbers for sure. And then we're just going to go ahead and file, and then export as, I like to truthfully, if you want to keep something really, really small and easily very lightweight, I would export this for our assignment as a save for the web, and that's just going to make it so that if it was to go on a web page, it would be very, very lightweight, and it would be compressed, but it's going to be high quality compressed, if that makes sense to you. I'd hit save on that, and it's going to be, let's go ahead and put it, I'll put it inside of my exterior mood. I'm going to create a little, just best practice here, I'm going to create a little output there, and I'm going to call this, instead of Moodboard template 7, I'm going to call this exterior, and then I'll put my last name there. And I'm just going to call this W because I want to show you something real fast. This is a web version, so hit save there, And now I'm going to go back, and you could also easily export it as a JPEG, which is great to do that too. We export that as a JPEG there, export all, and then I'm going to navigate back to that folder that I just created, which was the output folder. I'm just going to click on this to keep the same naming convention, but I'm going to change this to JPEG, JPEG, and hit export. I just want to show you the difference in the file sizes. We have 268 here, and we have 98. So you can see it's the same size photo, and really pretty much the same quality. I'm thumbing between the two here. Perceptibly same quality, but you can have something that's really lightweight in terms of the way it is submitted. It's really easy to download and upload and all those kinds of things. So that's just an aside. Anyways, all of that aside, I've got everything that I needed to get started on my mood board template. Just wanted to show you guys that, and that's it.